Right now, as I speak to you, there is a small clay bowl sitting at the edge of my garden here in Okinawa. The morning is still cool, the mist has not yet lifted from the hills, and inside that bowl is nothing but a handful of crushed eggshells, some old coffee grounds I saved from yesterday, and 3 cloves of garlic I sliced with my own hands not 1 hour ago. It cost me almost nothing, a few pennies if that, and yet, in the 40 years I have tended this same patch of soil, not one slug, not one aphid, not one hungry beetle has crossed the quiet line it guards. My neighbors spray their poison every single week, the expensive kind, and still they lose their tomatoes to the pests and their money to the store. I have not bought a single bottle of pesticide since before my grandson was born. Come closer, my friend. Sit with me a while. Let me show you why. My name is Kenji Takara. I am from Okinawa, a small island in the south of Japan where people often live to be 100 years old, where the sea is warm and the soil is generous, and where my family has grown its own food in this very same garden for 4 generations now. My grandmother taught me these methods when I was only a small boy, kneeling beside her in the dark earth with dirt under my fingernails. And she had learned them from her own mother before the war came and took so much from us. We live here by one word, a word I want you to carry with you today. Motanai. It means waste nothing. Every peel, every shell, every drop of water, every last thing has a purpose still waiting inside it. Today, I am going to give you a method so simple and so cheap that when you understand it, you will feel a little angry. You will wonder why, in all your years, no one ever told you this before. And that, my friend, is the real question. Why did no one ever tell you? Let me tell you about the enemy. Walk into any garden store in America, and you will see shelves taller than a grown man, packed with colorful bottles, each one promising to kill every pest that ever crawled. $12 for this one, $20 for that one, a little more for the extra strength, and they run out. Always. That is not an accident, my friend. That is the design. The chemical companies do not want you to have a garden that protects itself, because a garden that protects itself is a customer they have lost forever. They need you to walk back through those doors every single month, bottle after bottle, season after season, year after year, for the rest of your life. And for a family living on a fixed income, on a pension that does not grow even as the price of everything climbs higher, that is $200–300 every year, quietly buried in the soil and washed away with the next hard rain. They have taught you to believe that safety only comes in a bottle you must keep buying again and again. My grandmother would have laughed at that idea. Safety, she always told me, does not come from a bottle. Safety comes from understanding. Quick word before I begin, and I won't bring it up again. Everything I share here, there's far more of it than fits in one video. So I gathered it all into one book, the Takara Method, and right now I'm keeping it at a special price, lower than it'll normally be. The link's in the description, or point your phone at the code on screen. That's all. Now let me show you today's. Now, before I show you the method itself, I must warn you about a mistake. It is the mistake that almost every person makes, and I must warn you because if you make it too, then nothing I tell you today will work, and you will close this video and say to yourself that old Kenji did not know what he was talking about. The mistake is this. People believe that pest control means killing. They wait and they wait until the beetles are already feasting on the leaves, until the tomatoes are already full of holes, until the aphids already cover the stem like a green disease, and only then do they finally rush out to attack. But by then, my friend, it is far too late. You are fighting a war that you have already begun to lose. The Japanese way is a different way entirely. We do not wait, and we do not simply kill. We convince the pest, gently and cheaply, that your garden is not a pleasant place for it to be. We build a border it does not wish to cross. Prevention, not slaughter. A quiet wall, not a bloody battle. The moment you truly understand this difference, everything changes for you. You stop reacting in a panic, and you begin, calmly, to protect what is yours. So let us begin together. The very first step will cost you nothing at all, because you already throw this thing into the garbage every single morning of your life without a second thought. Coffee grounds. Yes, the used wet grounds sitting in your kitchen at this very moment. Do not throw them away ever again. Instead, spread them in a thin ring around the base of each of your plants, about the width of 2 of your fingers. That smell, the one that is so warm and pleasant to you and me in the morning, is completely unbearable to slugs and to snails, and the rough, gritty texture is sharp and cruel against their soft, tender bodies. They will not cross it. Ants dislike it just as much and will turn away. And as a gift on top of all that, those grounds will slowly release nitrogen down into your soil, so your plants grow greener and stronger at the very same time they are being protected. One single thing you were about to throw away, now doing 2 important jobs at once. That, my friend, is Matenai in your own 2 hands. A bag of chemical pesticide costs you $15 and endangers the grandchildren who play in your yard. This costs you nothing, and it feeds your tomatoes while it works. The second step is the one my grandmother guarded most carefully of all, and it is the very reason that little clay bowl is sitting out in my garden right now as I speak to you. It uses something so ordinary, so common, so completely free, that when I explain it to my own neighbors, they shake their heads and refuse to believe such a simple thing could ever truly work. It is the crushed eggshell, but not in the way you are picturing it in your mind right now. There is a specific way that my grandmother prepared her eggshells. One small and quiet step that almost every single person skips. And I promise you this, without that one small step, the eggshells will do absolutely nothing at all. They will lie there useless while the pests walk over them and laugh. She would take her eggshells to the stove first, before anything else, and she would, let me show you exactly how. Because this, right here, is where the real secret finally begins. She would take her eggshells to the stove first, and she would dry them completely, not wash them and toss them out wet into the garden, the way that almost everyone I have ever watched will do. Wet shells rot. They grow soft and slimy. They lose their sharp fighting edge within a day or 2, and then the pests simply crawl right over them without any trouble at all. So my grandmother would lay the shells out on a warm pan on the stove for a few minutes, or she would leave them out in the sun on the windowsill until they were bone dry and brittle to the touch. Only then, once they were fully dry, would she crush them. And here too there is a secret within the secret. She did not crush them into a fine powder, as some do. She crushed them into small, jagged, broken pieces, each one about the size of a single grain of rice. Sharp, uneven, cruel to the soft belly of any slug that dares to approach. Then she would scatter these dry, sharp, broken shells in a ring around the base of each and every plant, resting on top of the soil. Now, to a slug or a snail, understand what this becomes. It becomes a field of broken glass. They cannot, crawl across it. To a cutworm rising hungry from the soil at night, it is a wall it cannot pass. And once again, faithful Matenai gives you a second gift for free. As those sharp shells slowly break down over the following weeks, they release calcium down into your soil. And calcium is the exact thing that tomatoes and peppers most need in order to avoid the ugly rot that ruins so many of them from the bottom up. So you are stopping the pest and feeding the plant at the very same moment, from a thing you are about to drop into the garbage can. 24 eggs a month in a normal household will give you every shell you could ever need. The cost to you is zero, and the chemical bottle it quietly replaces is $15, even $20 every time it runs dry. Now let us come to the third step. And here we return to that garlic I sliced this morning with my own hands. Garlic is one of the very oldest protectors known to the gardeners of the entire world, in every country, across all of history, and it will cost you perhaps 50 cents for a whole fat bulb. Here is exactly how my family has always made our garlic spray. Take 3 or 4 good cloves and crush them well with the flat of a knife or a spoon. Drop them into a small jug of water, perhaps 4 cups in all, and let them sit and steep overnight, the whole night through. In the morning, strain out all the little pieces of garlic, so they do not clog anything, and pour that cloudy garlic water into any spray bottle you have saved, perhaps an old one from a household cleaner, well rinsed out first, so nothing harmful remains. Then add just 1 single drop of ordinary dish soap, no more, because the soap helps the spray cling to the leaves instead of rolling straight off them. Now mist the tops and, most importantly, the undersides of your leaves, once a week, and always again after any heavy rain has washed the last coat away. Aphids, those tiny green creatures that cover a rose stem or a bean stalk like a slow-moving plague, simply cannot bear it. Whiteflies turn away, spider mites, and many kinds of beetle want nothing to do with it. And yet it does no harm at all to you, none to the grandchildren who wander through your yard, and none to the honeybees that your garden truly needs in order to give you any fruit at all. Think on the arithmetic of it, my friend. A bottle of chemical aphid killer is $12 and gone within the month. A single bulb of garlic is 50 cents and makes you spray for weeks on end. Over 1 full growing season, these 3 simple, humble habits together, the coffee and the shells and the garlic, will save you $200, perhaps even $300, and they will keep poison entirely off the food that you grow to feed the people you love. That is not a small saving on a fixed income. That is a week of groceries. That is a tank of gas. That is money that stays in your life instead of washing into the ground. Now let me give you the extra layers. These are the small things that most people overlook entirely, and they are what separate a garden that merely struggles along from a garden that truly thrives and feeds you year after year. The first is what the English call companion planting, though my grandmother did it faithfully her whole life without ever once knowing that word. She planted bright marigolds at the four corners of every single vegetable bed. These cheerful orange flowers, only a few dollars for a whole tray of them at the start of the season, release something into both the soil and the air that root-eating nematodes and a great many insects absolutely despise. She planted mint in a pot buried near her leafy greens, because mint drives away ants and the cabbage moths that lay their eggs on your greens, though you must always keep mint inside a pot, my friend, or it will conquer your entire garden like an invading army and never let go. She planted fragrant basil right beside her tomatoes, which improves the flavor of the fruit and repels the flies at the same time. This is the garden, learning to protect its own self, plant helping plant, root beside root, the very same way a good village looks after its own people. The second thing that so many overlook is the simple beer trap, and this one is only for the times when the slugs have become truly terrible in your particular region. Take a shallow dish and sink it down into the soil so that its rim sits level and flush with the ground itself. Then pour into it a little of the cheapest beer you can find. Through the night, the slugs are drawn helplessly toward the scent of it, and they trouble your good plants no more. A single can will serve many small dishes across a whole garden. My grandmother, who had no beer, would use the very last flat drops at the bottom of a bottle of rice wine for exactly this same purpose, wasting nothing, always and forever, mare nai, even in this. And the third overlooked thing, the one that almost no person ever thinks of at all, is this: invite the hunters. Set out one small, shallow dish of clean water and lay a few flat stones beside it, and you will draw frogs, toads, and birds into your garden. And these creatures are the very oldest and finest pest control on all the earth. A single toad will eat many thousands of insects across one season and will never once ask you for wages. A simple birdhouse on a post costs you almost nothing to put up, and it brings you a whole family of tireless workers who will labor from dawn until dusk for you, entirely for free, every day of the summer. Here in Okinawa we have an old saying: the wise farmer does not fight against nature. He quietly makes his friends among the parts of nature that will gladly do the fighting for him. Now let me tell you something about my grandmother herself, because I want you to understand where all of this truly comes from, deep down. Her name was Uto. She raised 6 children through years of terrible hardship, in a time when there was very little of anything to be found on our island, when a wasted thing could mean a hungry night. She had a saying that she repeated to me so many times across my childhood that I still hear it now, in her own voice, when I am half asleep. She would hold up a single empty eggshell, or a wilted yellow leaf, or a small handful of spent coffee grounds, and she would look at me and say, "Kenji, this is not garbage. This is a tool that has not yet found its work. A tool that has not yet found its work." I have carried those words with me for 70 years. She kept a small, worn book beside the door, and in it she wrote down every single coin that the household spent, and every single coin that it managed to save. In Japan we have a name for this, and it is a tradition now well over 100 years old. We call it kakebo, the household ledger, the keeping of accounts by hand. She was not a wealthy woman, not in money, not by any measure the world would use, but she never once in her entire long life bought a bottle of poison for her garden. That garden fed her family faithfully every single year, without fail, in good times and in lean ones. And she lived to be 96 years old, with a clear and sharp mind and strong, steady hands, right up until the very end. That, my friend, is the true wealth she left to me. Not yen in any bank. Knowledge. Knowledge that no one can ever take away from you, that costs nothing at all to use, and that only grows richer and deeper the more freely you share it with others. And that, in the end, is exactly why I sit here and speak to you today. So let us now zoom out together, you and I, and look upon the whole picture at last. When you buy that bottle of poison, month after month after month, you are not only losing your money, though understand the money is very real, and across the long years it becomes thousands of dollars that could have stayed instead in your pocket, in your own life, in the open hands of the people you love most. But you are losing something far greater than money. You are slowly handing over your own independence to a company that profits directly from your not knowing what your own grandparents knew by heart. And I tell you this truly, every single time we are made to feel that we cannot do some simple thing for ourselves, that we must pay a stranger for the very thing our own people once did easily with their own two hands, a small and quiet piece of our dignity is taken away from us. We hardly notice it going, but it goes. Yet, my friend, hear me. The opposite is just as true, and it is far more powerful. When you kneel down in your own garden, in your own soil, and you protect your own growing plants with coffee grounds and dried eggshells and garlic that came from your own kitchen, something real is given back to you in return. You are capable. You are self-reliant. You are living in a way that is honest and clean and wise, the very way that human beings lived contentedly for 10,000 years before anyone ever thought to sell us the idea in a plastic bottle. And for those of us who are older now, living carefully and thoughtfully on what we have managed to save across a lifetime, this is not a small thing at all. This is the whole difference between feeling helpless and feeling strong, between waste and dignity. This, in the very end, is what Matainai has always truly meant. Not merely that we waste no thing, but that we waste no life, no ability still within us, and no good chance to live well and live wisely with what we already hold in our own two hands. Your garden can feed you, it can protect its own self, and it can cost you almost nothing at all to do it. You already have everything you truly need, sitting right there in your kitchen. You have only, all these years, been carefully taught to throw it away. Now, before you go from me today, I ask just one small thing of you, and I tell you honestly, it would make this old man's heart very glad. Down in the comments below, tell me where in the world you are writing to me from, what town, what state, what country you call home. I do so love to see how far these old Okinawan methods will travel, all the way from my small, quiet island to your own kitchen table, wherever in this wide world you happen to be sitting. And tell me this as well. What will you protect in your garden this coming year? I read each and every one of them. Truly I do. And stay close to me, my friend. Stay close. because in my very next lesson, I am going to reveal to you something that even my own neighbors here did not know until only recently. There is a common item sitting in your kitchen right now, one that you use nearly every single day and then throw away without ever giving it a second thought, and it can cut down your heating and cooling bill in a way that the power company would very much prefer you never ever discover for yourself. My grandmother used this very thing to keep her whole home cool through the hottest, heaviest summers of Okinawa, with no machine at all, not one. And I promise you, I will show you exactly how it is done. Until then, my friend, waste nothing. Motai nai.